3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it.
Oh, that was very dramatic, wasn't it? A very exciting introduction. Welcome along, as ever, to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan. It's a Monday night, it's 7 o'clock, and we're doing what we do every week. We are going to be talking all things well-being, comedy, anything that comes up, really. And tonight's guest is a real good friend of mine, so it's absolutely fantastic. It's going to be more like just having a chat in my kitchen, really. How has your week been? What you've been up to? Do let us know. Leave your comments in the box, if you will. If you're joining us on Facebook or LinkedIn, Twitter, or any of those social media outlets, you can always find us on YouTube as well. Let us know that you're there. Leave your comments there. A little hello is always much appreciated. So if you are out there, talk to me. It's been an interesting week for me. I've been busy as ever. The work is really building up now as we move towards winter. So last week I did my first full day of behavioural safety. I've done the odd hour here and there, but that was a whole day of it. That was pretty heavy, but great fun. It was also nice to host my first conference, because I'm not hosting any conferences really, and I did quite a few of those last year. So thanks to Charlie and everyone for remembering me. It's always nice when someone rings up and says, "You're that bloke that does funny stuff about the men's health." Yeah. Can you do funny stuff about other subjects as well? Well, I can try. Although I was kind of caught a little bit short on Friday, because as we know, September is Suicide Awareness Month. And so to go into companies and talk to people about suicide, what it is, how it affects people, the legacy, the stigma around it, that was heavy going, I'm not going to lie. Maybe I got used to it the more I did prior to lockdown, but I found it quite emotional, to be honest. But nothing wrong with a little bit of emotion, nothing wrong with admitting to being human, I guess. In terms of comedy clubs, a couple of really nice gigs last week. So thanks to Kev Hawkin and the Jonglers team for, again, putting me on. One night of hosting and one night of headlining. So it was a real varied mix last week. And of course, I also had 2 days with Darren helping me nearly getting this extension finished. So we're nearly there. And of course, my partner in crime who got me through the week, as always, Natasha Donovan, who, as you know, produces and helps me do the show and most of the other things I do. So she's downstairs in the box. She'll be answering and addressing any comments you make. So if you are told that I love you, she's using my ID. I've been identity cloned by an emotional, happy, jolly woman. So when you see me face to face, it'll be me going, "No, I didn't say that." But when you're in the box, expect lots of love. And lots of love is one of the things I associate with tonight's guest. Her name's Dana Alexander. She comes from Canada. And in the years I've known her, she has really shown herself to be a wonderful human being, great comic, great writer. I'm sorry to say, of all as funny as she's on stage, put her in the kitchen. I'm not being sexist or misogynistic, but this woman can work magic with a bit of cabbage and a handful of mincemeat. An exceptional cook. One of only 3 comics, I think, that's ever stayed at my house. So you get the level of respect and affection I have for this woman. So, all there is to say is I can ask everyone out there, please sit, have a listen, and enjoy the next hour as I'm joined by the phenomenal Dana Alexander. Look at you, girl. Are you muted? I think you might be muted. Oh, yeah, I think you are. Okay, so obviously all those things I said about her, great, great comedian, great writer, great cook. Not so good with a microphone because unfortunately we're still kind of struggling to get her on. Let's just get that satellite link, get them working with her. You've muted the mic at your
There we
end,
go.
Dana. There you go. There you've joined me. Oh, that big intro I'll give you, and you're like, so,
I know.
so you're so busy, probably helping people that you forgot to press unmute.
Well, do you know what it was? It was because my headphones have a mic on it, but I didn't get the mic. So then it sounded like I was muted so I could hear you, but I didn't have the mic on, which was really the issue. So I just took the headphones out.
But you're here now.
I'm here.
So how you been doing? What you been up to today?
Cooking, I went to the gym. I should have did some invoices, but I watched a bunch of Come Dine With Me instead.
So straight onto the food, girl. Straight onto the food.
You know what I did? The cabbage rolls that I made.
I make them myself. Not quite as good as yours, but
you don't have to roll them. Turns out you can just make it like a stew, and it's the same thing.
Oh.
Yeah, it just cut like 3 hours.
Yeah,
I'm
but
doing that today.
The fun is just trying to work out why I've got so much mincemeat left and cabbage left over. So yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. So how's gigging been going? You've been busy?
I've been busy. I can't complain. I mean, I had the odd Friday and Saturday off, but they tend to go week by week. I was off this Friday. I've had about maybe like 3 weekend dates off since we started, so I can't complain. A little bit of midweek stuff, some Sunday stuff too, and just plodding along, Yeah.
But you've been keeping busy because lockdown, you stuck to it, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I really always wanted to write a cookbook, and I wrote it. But so now I'm in the fun part of trying all the recipes and doing all the photography. And I thought that I should build up some like online presence with recipes and things like that. So that, you got to put something out there. There has to be something out there.
You got to have some sort of presence all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us, growing up, were you the funny kid in the family?
I would definitely say I was voted class clown. I do remember. Definitely, I was funny, but everybody had a pretty good sense of humor. But I guess you could say I was known to be funny. Yes, people told me I should be a comedian when I was like a teenager.
And in the family, were you always like the one cracking jokes, making people laugh?
Yeah, we all did though. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like my dad did, my mom did for sure. My brother did. We all had a pretty good sense of humor. I think maybe my sense of humor was maybe a little more shocking than the rest of theirs sometimes.
At school, were you known as the funny one?
Oh, definitely. I was known as a little bit of a bully, but I didn't bully like the nerdy kids. I bullied the popular kids, so I'm at peace with that decision. But I had a smart mouth on me, that's for sure. And I was always ready. I was always ready for a conflict.
So, did you see yourself as some kind of vigilante, kind of Batman character?
Listen, misogynoir is real. And when you live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and you just are basically my mom is mixed race, but she was raised by a white woman. So she thinks she's a white woman. And she passed that Karenacity down to me as well. So I never humbled myself in the right way. So everybody was trying me. Black women, black men, white. It was just me. Do you know what I mean? But I think there's always that sense of, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you did that. I'm like, well, he did it. Why can't I? Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Were you academic at school?
Very academic. I did the International Baccalaureate program throughout high school, but I went a little bit more down the drama path. I was really fortunate to go to a school called Victoria School of the Performing and Visual Arts from grade 10 to 12. So I took drama, acting, those are two different classes, directing, musical theater, dance, guitar, and I spent just as much time in those electives as I did in my math, social science, and English classes. It was
And
like
then
Fame. It was like the Canadian version of
Fame
Fame.
Academy.
Basically.
And then what happened when you left school? What was your first job?
You know what? I worked this. Well, I got kicked out while I was still in school. I was 17. So I was working hard for that money. I didn't get to go on the class trip to New York that year. I had to pay first and last month's rent. But I was working all kinds of jobs. I worked at Laser Tag, Saucy Bread Company.
Saucy bread.
Yeah, I used to work at a bakery. I used to do the construction safety training system online tests with all the like plumbers and pipe fitters on Saturday. I had like 5,000 jobs. Then I ended up in hospitality at the hospital. My mom was a nurse, so those were good jobs that you get paid like $12, $13, which was a lot of money in 1999, you know. And I ended up being a porter in emergency, and it was at that time they had like an educational fund at my job, so you could take like whatever classes you wanted up to $500 a year.
Okay.
So there was like this stand-up comedy course. I would have been 18 at the time, run by a comic who's still working by the name of Paul Sveen out of Edmonton. And I just did this like 6-week crash course in stand-up comedy, and I just never looked back.
Wow.
And the comedy club was right across the street from my house growing up. It was in the mall. Yeah, it was just like right there. Yeah.
And then how was your first gig?
I was really scared, but I was really funny. And it was annoying because I was so young. I was 18. So my mom came like she was at a Christmas concert or something. She like stood up in the audience with a camcorder and was like waving at me during my set. I was mortified. So I did some banter with her and she's like, hi. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Because you feel like such a loser. You're 18. Some of these people are like 40, 45, 30. And you just feel like some, little kid. But it was actually Kenny Robinson, who's still a comic that works. He founded the Nubian Disciples of Comedy, which is the longest running comedy night at the Toronto club, Yuck Yucks. Okay. Anyways, he was headlining back to back in Edmonton. And every single week, what they used to do with us amateurs coming up was they did a workshop. So the comic that was headlining that week on the Wednesday for an hour at like 6 o'clock, between 6 and 7, he would just kind of do like a Q&A.
Right.
It was always a dude, now that I think about it. Yeah, with everybody. And I went to every single one, every single week for months and months and months. And I just kept my mouth shut. And then one week, Kenny was like, you just get up and do 5 minutes, like in front of me right now. And I was like, I wasn't ready to go on stage. I didn't do so well that first time. But then the next week when I came back, I came prepared. And then Kenny was like, can she do 5 minutes? Kenny's also a Black comic, which helps. He's like, can she do, 5 minutes on the weekend? And we just kind of moved from there.
Okay. And then, so how long were you on the Canadian circuit? What was that like, working up with the rugged oil riggers and the cold north?
Well, I'm sure it's reflected in my personality. I'm not the daintiest of women. I was so young. I think when you're 18, 19, even 20, you don't even, like some guys are like, I can't believe I have to share a hotel. You're like, a hotel? You're like a little kid, basically. So you just take it in stride, I think, when you're that young. So I'm from Alberta, and I was from like Edmonton, Alberta. Which is a pretty cool city, but like, yeah, there's some rednecks up in there. So, they weren't strangers to me in life. You know what I mean? But they were a little bit more country when I got out of my city, if that makes sense.
And where was your mum from?
My mom's born in England, and she's a mixed race woman. My granny, her whole life thought she was Irish Italian. She is half Irish, but her mother was a bastard. So her mother remarried a man by the name of Rustaghini. So my great grandmother is a Rustaghini, but only by marriage.
That's a great name, man. Dana Rustaghini. That cookbook is going to fly off the shelves, girl.
Yeah, that wouldn't it? And then my mother's father is from Guyana, and he came up during Windrush. So he was here in 1957.
Wow.
In England, yeah.
And then why did your mum go to Canada?
Well, my grandfather won 66,000 pounds on some horses.
Wow.
Yeah, so he just left this country. He wanted to go to Australia, but they weren't letting black people in.
Okay.
So he went to Canada and he bought 3 properties, and he was like mechanical engineering, like, guys that rebuild the engines on ships. He was like the guy that would instruct teams of men to rebuild ship engines and things.
Okay. So when growing up then, did you have a sense of a Canadian identity, or is it more a British or the Irish or
Jamaican.
Jamaican,
Once you're
Guyanese?
Jamaican, they just take over everything. You can't be sitting there with your jerk chicken family trying to pretend you enjoy this cheese sandwich. Like,
And
you know what I
you're
mean?
there making your pie and mash. You're like,
I definitely have my Canadian ways. Don't get me wrong. I think there's very much a cross section, but I've, you know, I, s- I can speak patois as my brother and sister can, even though my mother and father, well, my mother's not a Jamaican, but my father, he has the same accent that I do. But I always felt very connected to my culture, from literature to movies, politics, history, news. Jamaican culture has been very, yeah, I love it. You know me.
so. But when you say you're connected to your culture, I see you as a citizen of the world
I
because
definitely am a citizen of the world because I'm so mixed as well, right? Because we got the Guyanese side, then the Irish side, then the British side, Jamaican, and even my granny on my Jamaican side, her grandpa was Scottish. We found My dad told me that as well. So we're like, and then, but that's
oh,
everybody in Canada. Everybody in Canada is a mutt. So I think I've always been just very open to everybody's culture, and obviously how much I work abroad and things like
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I do feel like a citizen of the world. Like I know what's going, like I know what's happening with people.
So, if I could just mention before we move on, if you're listening to us on SoundCloud or on YouTube on a men's radio station, welcome along to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan, and my amazing guest, Dana Alexander. This week, we're talking comedy, we're going to talk cookery, we're going to talk culture, and all things that are going on. If you are listening to us on the podcast, leave us a like, same with on any other social media outlets. So, Dana, how long were you a comedian in Canada before you decided to come to the UK?
Till I was 29, so 11
Wow.
years.
So you came here proper veteran, carrying that body armor.
I just wanted that little piece of television tape, which I knew would get me an agent, and it did.
Okay, all right.
And that helped to get other television. Like I knew that I could get some traction here, and I have. Lately, I've been feeling like I got to venture out again a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you came, were you like really well known and established on the Canadian circuit, or had it
Oh,
been hard to break through
definitely.
there? Yeah.
100% I was established. I think I had done one, two, three or four different TV spots, which is pretty good for a Canadian comic. The majority of us have none. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
I was fortunate. I have to say that I was fortunate, and I never was I mean, it was Canada, so, but by Canadian standards, I worked all the time.
But see, for me, right, stereotyping is something that fascinates me, especially stereotyping that leads to stigma. And I don't think I've ever met a Canadian that I didn't get on with. And secondly, you all seem to have this natural, almost Irish
I
sense of
can name
humor.
5 in this country.
Yeah, but I've always found they're these are my boundaries. And if you cross this line, you're going to get a fight. That's been my experience of the Canadian comics who are,
Maybe we're a little bit more territorial because I
yeah,
think in the case of Canadians, especially coming to England, these like plain ass white guys, because that's what they are in Canada, they finally get that moment to be exotic. And so, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's that territorial aspect when they see another Canadian, just
okay.
just because all of a sudden, like, I'm a Canadian man, but if a black Canadian woman comes on, all of a sudden you're just a regular. You know what I mean? Like you don't get that.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
there might be a little bit of that. It happens sometimes with gay comics, black comics. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Muslim
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
comics.
yeah, yeah. But it just seemed to me that I don't know if you guys come over here at the top of your game but I don't even think I've met a poor, like, on stage for sheer comedic value. Never met a poor or a bad Canadian comic. And there's this
We have to
whole
work
thing.
45 minutes is why.
Okay.
Yeah, headlining. And like, so for example, like if I do a week in Ottawa for Absolute, I'll be working every single day. I will do
Wow.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes 3 shows on a Friday and 3 shows on a Saturday. Like it's crazy because we don't do the breaks, the intervals. So you can have like an 8 and a 10:30. Does that make sense? And then he
Yeah.
runs another club in tandem downstairs. And then he runs a satellite club that starts at like 6:30 or 7. Not, you know what I'm saying? So like, and you can just imagine what it's like when you go up 4 times in an evening and 3 of those times you did 45 minutes.
Yeah, but also to me, I think the sheer scale of the place. I remember going to New York and my friend said, "Look, there's a chance I can get us a gig. Where is it?" And he said, "Somewhere." I said, "Oh, how far away is that?" He said, "It's about a 6-hour drive." Like, there is no way I will drive 6 hours anywhere unless I'm going around the M25 on a Friday night. I'm
Well, I
never.
mean, I'm just Canadian, so that's how it is.
Yeah, you just kind of get in the car and.
Yeah, I've been caught behind avalanches. I've seen bears on the road. I've seen like those goats with the curly horns. I've seen bobcats. Don't even say it's Canada.
And then, so you came to England. You got to start from scratch. How did that
Mhm.
work out? How did you find the first few gigs?
I was actually a couple of them were a little bit iffy, but they were good. I mean, I caught on pretty quickly. I don't think the culture of British comedy is too dissimilar from Canadian, and we all indulge in American, culture, whether that's movies and television and the various stand-ups. So I don't think me as a Canadian is particularly particular. We know how it goes. Do you know what I mean? Like British comics will work in Canada, Canadian comics can work in Britain. I feel like there's more of a disconnect between American and Britain. I feel like Canadians are kind of in
Yeah,
between the two.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So the first gig you did here, do you remember where that was?
Oh my God. It was in 2010. Oh my God. It might have been in Oxfordshire for Issy Lawrence. They had a gig there. Then there was another one that used to be like Forest Hill or something.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I do remember a couple of them, but I can't. Oh God. No, that's wrong. I do remember. It was a short little guy who ran a club
Okay.
in East London. It was just
Right.
like a amateur show on a Tuesday.
Okay.
He just
And then
moved
you.
to South London. It wasn't Brett Goldstein, but it looked like Brett Goldstein.
No,
And
you
it
got to use his
wasn't Matt
proper title. No, do you
Kirshen.
mean? Do you mean Emmy award-winning comic?
Yeah, I didn't even know. I
.com.
was like, is this wow?
Yeah,
Congratulations.
that's the
Good for
beauty of
him.
comedy, though, isn't it? One night you can be performing someone at a new act night, and then the following night or the following week they could be in a major movie. It's just
Well, that's the thing. I
ka-ching.
think you just got to stick at it with comedy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And then so you start doing that, and then audiences here, did they got you kind of more or less? You sort of
Yeah,
fell
I
into
did.
it,
I did pretty well right off the top. I really can't say that I didn't.
and then was there any kind of cultural differences coming from Canada in regards to how the other acts received you, or is it a universal sort of
I mean, there's
camaraderie?
I think I like the comics a little bit better in the UK because everybody like works. There's so many comics in Canada that are hungry, so there just aren't enough spaces. So it just creates a more competitive environment, and we see each other more often. So the Canadian comics that I know, like I know them, like I've gigged with them
Okay.
57 times. Here, you might not see a guy for 2-3 years.
Yeah, yeah, I can kind of see that. And then you kind of made the breakthrough with the military gigs with CSE.
Yeah, I guess I was one of the first
The
women to do
first,
that.
the
I'm a little
first.
rough around the edges, so sometimes it pays to be rough. Even though they give these skinny little white girls all the shine, all the TV shine for the most part.
And then I just remember meeting you at the airport, and you had a hula hoop, and
Yeah.
trying to work out, wow, how's she going to use this on stage in comedy? Is she like hula dance, or is it a prop, or what do you do? What are you going to do with it?
I just hula hoop.
And then the first night, I then remember watching you going out in front of this room full of squaddies who had never seen a black female comedian on stage at one of these kind of gigs.
And that's only because Gina turned the gig down first.
Well, yeah, that's probably what it was.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah. Gina, and then Ninia, and then Miss London, and then Glenna Jackson, then the woman who works in the jerk shop next to the airport. And then, no, come on, you were there on merit. But it took you all of about 20 seconds to just get them. And I think what did it was this kind of no-nonsense, I will make you laugh or I'll fight you, it's your choice.
Maybe. You know the gigs I had to do in Canada?
When yeah, well, that's exactly it.
Oh, my God. There was this one gig. It was known as the roughest gig in Canada. It was called Fairview. And it was like all the dudes there were working. They were there just to work. I think men outnumbered women like 7-1 in this town.
Wow.
And it was just like, oh my God, it was a horrible bar. The only other woman there was the woman who was pulling pints and me. And it was so cute because all these little worker guys, some of them were just complete Neanderthals, but others were just like regular dad types, and they were country as fuck. And because you have to learn how to two-step and shit like that at school. And you're only one girl, so they used to like line up to dance with me because there was no one.
Well, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but those gigs were fucking rough, man. So rough.
They were good teeth breaking exercises. Surely, for when you
break your teeth, they break your back. I wouldn't be surprised if someone left there with a broken skull. Like this was some rough ass Canadians, yo.
Yeah, I can see that would be a tough
You
one.
never see, like in Canada, when you see a town that's like 80% men.
But that's then when because obviously we then, normally when you work with comics, you have a day when you sort of kind of get to know each other, then you see each other a few weeks later, a few months later. But we were forced to live together for like 7 days, 24/7, which is when I saw the other side of you that, okay, yeah, you're funny, you're tough, but you've got this real caring nature and this urge to feed the world.
I love to cook. I don't know what happened to me. As soon as I turned 18, I just wanted to feed everybody. I don't know why. My dad used to try and get me to cook when I was young, and I thought it was sexist because he didn't ask my gay brother to do that shit. So I didn't do it in protest. But then as soon as I was out of his house, I was cooking everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing, of course, is that although you cook, you don't always eat it yourself, do you?
Not always, but today I will.
Okay. So then that brings us on to your kind of during lockdown, your cookery shows.
Yeah, it started with Dinner Party International, where I would pick a comic from around the world. Hopefully, there was a couple from England, but I wanted to really get people to bring recipes from their own culture and then make it together, sort of a thing, which was great. But the connection in my kitchen was so shit, and my technology wasn't that good, and all of these other things. So I ended up changing that to Foodie Friday because I learned how to edit a little bit and stream. And then I realized, does anybody really want to watch me cook for 30 minutes? You did.
Yeah. Me and Tasha, we would on a Saturday morning very often lie in bed, watch your cookery show, and just love it. Just what we loved though was this is where your Jamaican side came in. We'd go for this recipe. You need 5 spoonfuls of sugar. Okay, I haven't got any sugar. Let me see what else I've got in the fridge. And then it was this ability to improvise, whereas a lot of people would have gone, right, it's all about the ingredients. For you, it's just all about the process, and something's getting made here.
Well, once you have, I do try to make a plan. We know how life works. Plans don't always work out in this fucking world. So you just better come with plan B, C, and D. But I have a pretty robust cupboard. So there's some options when I run out of certain things, right? It just makes sense. Don't have some sugar, use a bit of honey. You know what I mean? There's always an option.
And then do you feel then that helped you get through lockdown?
Well, I think it was just like I went food obsessed. I don't know what it was. Like, yeah, definitely got companionship helped me get through lockdown. That was exciting. But yeah, food cooking, it really does. And the editing of the video, because as much as it's nice to just like set up a camera, come in, just come around this way. As much as it's nice to set up a camera, it's also it's also you have to sit there and you have to figure out the concept of the show, get the graphics, pull the images, grab the music, edit. Like there's a lot of editing. So I learned some editing skills, which I actually think are going to be quite valuable. And I'm really just trying to bring the production quality of what I'm doing up and kind of considering like what I like as because YouTube totally taught me how to cook. So I'd like to hopefully, do recipes where they're like, I'm going to go to her because she doesn't take 9 billion years cutting onions. Like I could get this recipe from this girl in like 5 minutes,
Yeah, like I say, Saturday mornings we would very often have a cup of coffee, put you on, and it's just entertaining, just engaging. I would urge anyone to get ready, steady, cook. Go just watch one of your cookery shows because, like this latest one where you've been trying to get the boyfriend to eat stuff, it's hilarious.
You know what? Don't even start me on that. Because in my world, I think he is like the luckiest person in the world. Because in my I'm just like, who doesn't want my food? You're crazy. But then I have to remember, like, he has a palate that's very attuned to the cuisine that he came up with. He's from Iran. So the way that they eat food is just different than how we eat food. Do you know what I mean?
How does that work?
It's lots of cumin, lemon, mint. My God. Also some interesting ones like there's like these dried limes that they use, like a pomegranate syrup. There's lots of flavors that I wasn't really familiar with, So yeah.
Okay, but you're enjoying it, and how's he coping with? He must be like 3 stone heavier than the last time I've seen him.
No, he's not. You know what? He put on a little tiny bit of weight. Thank God.
And you was pleased, weren't you? You were happy.
Yeah, he started because he was so like he's so committed. So he really slimmed down, but I think now he's built some muscle. So he has like a tiny little bit of. He's still very slender, but he has like more strength.
You need a man that can carry you home. That's what it is.
I don't know if he can. I don't know.
You got to build him up some more, bulk him up some more. How does he cope with the fact that you're a comedian? Because for a lot of men, it can be quite intimidating to be with, a funny woman. I'm sorry if that's sexist, misogynistic, whatever, but that's the reality of my experience.
His sister works is a television chef, so he's used to that, and he doesn't care. He's really supportive. Like he'll come and he'll be like, "Oh, that was a really good set," and he likes to come when he can, and he's very supportive. But I don't think he's into like he doesn't like. I don't think he sees me as any different than he'd see somebody who worked at the Tesco's.
Okay, but then if he's a television cook, do you not have like cook-offs, the two of you? Do you not have issues where?
Well, there's a little bit of a language barrier. But also too, his sister's legit. Like she does this for real.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like this is her legit business, and she's way above me. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like a little joke in comparison to what.
Never, mate.
For sure. She did say to him the other day, "How much does she cook?"
Oh yeah. Listen, I've shared a fridge with you, and you eat about a third of what you make.
I know.
The rest of it,
the therapy for me is in the cooking. Oh, I love it. I love it though. Do you know when you think about it, you go to these restaurants and you'll pay, 15 quid, 20 quid, and you see me mash up a Tesco's with 8 quid. Okay. Like I'll pay half the money and have the food be twice as good and be able to feed 3 times as many people. And I gave myself something to do all afternoon. I'm in.
What do you prefer then, the cooking or the comedy? There's a magic wand. You can either be the UK's leading comedian or leading TV chef. What are you choosing?
Well, you know what I find as I'm getting older, I don't know that I'm getting less competitive, but there's room for everybody. I think it's ridiculous for me to think I should be a leading chef when there's so many people who are much more qualified than me. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like,
Give it a
who am I?
choice. If it were your choice, you can be either. What
Oh,
would you choose?
comedy, comedy.
Okay. So
Because
what is it
comedy is
about
more
comedy then?
expansive, right? Like you could get into film, you can get into presenting. You know, I think Gordon Ramsay's done a really good job. But you know the thing is though, you know who I've really been gravitating towards? Marco Pierre White
Okay. Why is
and
that? What
his
is it
little
about Marco
snobby
Pierre?
ass. Well, because I think he got to a point where he stopped buying into it.
Okay.
And I think with him, and I think they all have it. I think Jamie, you know, what's his Gordon and him, they
Jamie
all do
Oliver.
have that passion for food. Yeah, Nigella, she's just trying. I don't know what she's trying to do. I'm like, girl, did you come here to
Mate.
cook for real though?
Do you know I had a friend recently who got into an argument with his partner because he was lusting over Nigella, and she was
It's
actually quite
deliberate.
upset. Yeah, of course it is. It's all very, very. My ones are the
Coming
two
in
fat
here
hairy
carrying
bikers.
like 2 cherry
Yeah,
pies, like
there you go.
girls
Two
just like
apple pies. No, the hairy bike. Nothing comes close to the hairy bikers. They are the
that.
ultimate cooks for me. Whereas Jamie Oliver will make dauphinoise potato and l'escargot. The hairy bikers go, like this week we're making a bacon sandwich.
Yeah,
So you need
like
some
sometimes
bread and
Jamie
some
Oliver's like,
bacon.
well, I like to do Dauphinoise, but I just like
Yeah,
to add a little bit of bologna.
yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Why?
Exactly,
Like
exactly,
sometimes,
mate.
but I like that he has the passion. But I like that Marco Pierre. Like I like how disciplined he was about it, and I like that it never became about the fame for him. It
No,
was always about the food. And I think for him, it's about the hunting as well. And do you know what I mean? I think he just got to that point where he was just like, he said something that really resonated. He's like, you know, when I started, it's also because I think he's graduated into a new generation. Perhaps like me, we're
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
adapting as well as the newer generation. But he said, you know, when you're being judged by people who aren't qualified, what does it mean?
yeah, yeah. I
You
see
know,
that.
like I want to
I
be
see
judged
that.
by the best. I want to be held to like I like being a good comic is oh, was I swearing too much? Sorry. Being a good I'm terrible.
Come
But
on.
I saw the little note there. But oh, that was yeah, sorry.
So being a good comic,
Yeah, I being a good comic is important to me. Do you know what I mean? Being able
yeah,
to command and control an audience of any size of all different, like I think Thursday I have to do like a bunch of like very well-to-do Indian businessmen. I
hmm.
don't know why they picked me of all people, but they picked me, which is nice.
Do you feel then, because we've had lots of discussion on the circuit about um, like how women are perceived differently, and there's been a lot of stuff about diversity on bills now. And I noticed recently a comment you made, which did strike me as kind of obvious, where so many UK bookers are now saying we want more women, women of colour, more diversity on bills, and then you pointed out that international agents have been able to find you for years.
Oh God, I get some wild like somebody just from where was it? Rotterdam. Somehow he got a connection from a guy from Antwerp who got you know what I mean? If these guys can source me and I don't even live in their cities. Even
Yeah,
with
so
Jimmy Asheray, when they needed it, they actually said, you know what, if we're gonna do a comedy that's based on Nigerian culture, maybe we should get a Nigerian comedian. Bing, bing, bing. And you know, all they did was just put Nigerian and comedian into Google, and boop, there she was. So, like, when people say they can't find these people, it's so funny to me because I'm not hiding.
yeah. Do you think then that, like, has it been a barrier to your success? Like, being a woman and a woman of color, is that a double whammy or is that a double bonus?
I think there's often we already have a Black North American that happens sometimes. I think I think you really have to be connected with the right agent here. I think a lot of the time, um, they have the people that they like in this country, and they tend to use those same people over and over. A couple do break through now and again, but I feel like there's a lot of some people get hot for a second and then all of a sudden you don't see them again. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, so we had Catherine Ryan broke big. Does that take the Canadian kind of horse out of the race, or?
I think if anybody's really perceptive, they would probably realize what me and Catherine do is very, very different, even as stand-ups. But you probably have noticed she does a lot more presenting and things like that. And I think she's getting into some more writing and things. I'm very much a straight up stand-up, and I'm good at my job. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm not working. I'm booked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's just interesting because if anything, it just seems like it's an excuse that people make when they have no diversity, because I just don't think it's so easy to get in touch with, even if I wanted to go and find Muslim comics, which we want to do because we want to raise some money for Afghanistan, I'm going to have to do that. But it's not going to be like, I'm going to be able to pull 10 off the top of my head, but the search shouldn't be that long.
Okay, but then does the blame for that lie with the circuit for not being open, or with the community for not having people who want to do it, or are there other issues here?
Well, I think it is a combination of, like, for example, when I started doing stand-up, there weren't really any other Black women doing it in the whole country, So then that's an issue of supply. But then when there are a few doing it, because there aren't enough, a lot of the time, those women are working right away. And you get when people are really calling for more women who got the job done, it was hard to find them. We're booked. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But then there's the other thing, and I won't name names, but there was a one comic who was kind of pushed to the forefront at a very, very early stage based on her identity. And I'm not sure that she was really at a position, like she was just so brand new, if that makes any sense, to be doing like that caliber of gig. And there was no real way for her to actually have obtained that ability in such a short amount of time. So I think sometimes they are just trying to tick boxes, and they even tried to control her image by suggesting she wear a dress that was more cultural because it was hearkening to, hotbed current events and political issues. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to shame anyone because it's not her fault or anything. But I think sometimes they're like, oh, there aren't any. We see one, just come here. But because they think there aren't any more, they don't. I think they maybe get a bit lazy in terms of like really doing their research.
So anyone just joining us, welcome to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan, sponsored by WJ, the UK's leading road marking specialists. I'm joined tonight by Dana Alexander. So if you're listening on SoundCloud, YouTube, or the Men's Radio Station, Deluxe Radio, or wherever you're listening, hello, thanks for joining us. Dana, I had Ria Lena come on as a guest a few weeks back, and she's now starting to finally get the success she deserves. So she's popping up on all kind of different programs. And over the years, I've regularly said to her, just be patient. You just got to stay patient. But
you got to stay patient. But I mean, we went through a time, and, Ria Lena, she's a woman of color. There was also Esther Manito. I think both of them taped Apollos this year. And I think what's become glaringly obvious is when people look at who has been hired for these jobs traditionally, it's getting to a point where they're going to have to start hiring diverse, or they're not going to be legitimate anymore. But yeah, I think she's definitely one that's been looked over 100%.
And then because you've managed to build a kind of little fan base and a little income stream without going through mainstream television in this country, is that the way forward, do you think, for other people? Is that a model that other people can adopt, a template that will work?
I'm so fortunate financially. I think it's kind of good and it's bad. When I had to hunt, you hunt. But when you're just like, oh, my gigs are there, there's money in the bank, what you hunting? You know what I mean? It's like the difference of hunting on an empty stomach or a full one. And my stomach is kind of full, but I think there's also been such a change in the culture of comedy. I think, like, I know I will always belong on stages and things like that. And there's many things I can do. I presented a pilot, like, you know, I'm an able-bodied person, but I think I'm kind of getting to a point where I need to make decisions about how I want to fit in to things in comedy. And I think, I don't know, just that time off in lockdown just really got me I really love cooking. So I've always been a person who just did what I loved, and that's what I love.
Okay. So then how did you, because obviously we spoke quite a lot during lockdown. You were one of the sort of 3 or 4 people that I had conversations with. Obviously my life is a bit different because, you know, I live with someone and it's like, you know, it's very entertaining. It's never boring. And as you know, we've got a good, tight circle of close friends.
Mm-hmm.
But when you, like, how did you get through it? Like, so you got no work, income's been hit. How did you cope with that?
Well, I had savings and I still had income because of my radio residuals.
Well, to explain radio residuals?
So there's a Canadian station called on Sirius XM, and it used to be called, was it called Canada Laughs, but now it's just for Laughs Radio.
Okay.
Because obviously the guy got handed the cookie jar. They had to sell him up to Howie Mandel. I don't know if you remember all this, but basically it's a station that plays 100% Canadian content, and they've been spinning 3 albums of mine for 4 years now. Wow. Or something like that. So I get a very reliable income stream from there, and I've been able to put some money away, and the money that I make from that is much more than I need to pay my bills. So I'm okay.
And then how did you cope with being on your own or not performing, not being on stage, maybe being isolated?
I made 3 shows. I made Foodie Friday. I made the Weekly Side Eye, which you were on. And I did RuPaul's Drag Race trivia tournament. RuPaul's Drag Race, it was just like exactly what I needed. Now there's like an Australian franchise, All Stars, Canada, Holland, España. Do you know what I mean? So it was just, I was so lucky to have so much content for Drag Race. It just really kept my spirits up.
Yeah, I mean, I forwarded you the thing I saw on, I think it was Insta or Twitter, where we were suggesting guests. I think you'd be a fantastic guest because you're very positive. You know, your passion for comedy, your passion for cooking, your passion for life comes through in everything that you do. But I just wonder, is that enough sometimes to sustain you through times of trouble? Because there will be people who think we're comedians, so you lot must laugh and joke all the time. Now, to be fair, I mostly do, but then that's because I don't get really time to mope about. I keep myself busy, and I'm surrounded by people who wouldn't tolerate it. But if I was on my own, I wonder how I wasn't on my own. No, but I'm saying if I was on my own, how I would cope in that as a comic. Because we travel. When we travel, essentially we travel on our own.
John, I was looking so forward to actually just enjoying my life. I lived in the train station. I lived at the fucking airport. Sorry, at the airport.
Yeah.
It was just, it was a lot. I would love to have the time to cook that I have, I've actually realized now I have to make the time, right? So the gigs are there now, but because I got into this whole other habit of editing video and producing content, I've managed to kind of keep that in the schedule. Sometimes there's a bit of lag when it comes to, like, I wasn't able to get everything out like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and edit it the way I wanted to. But it did come together by Saturday morning. But yeah. You just have to do some love. Yeah.
Do you love or, do what keeps you busy? If you had to give a top tip for how to get through tough times, words of wisdom from Dana.
Companionship was really helpful to me. I really started speaking a lot more with my parents. I did meet. I never had I didn't meet. I was single for 10 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really nice to have like someone there for, like, someone that's there for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, we celebrated 1 year anniversary on the 11th. And
where did you go in the end?
Where did I go?
Yeah, where did you go?
For anniversary?
because we had a big conversation about all these places and all these ideas. And I
It
wondered.
rained like crazy. So we didn't end up going anywhere. We ended up doing, the thing that's annoying is that we go everywhere all the time anyway, but we have to still do this. But yeah, we couldn't because it just like we were completely reined into the house. But we did celebrate. He got me a deep fryer.
Hey, he knows the way to your heart, doesn't he? Would you have that as your tip then? Finding a companion to share your journey.
Companionship was really, really helpful, but it was interesting because I was alone for so long. I had to learn about that compromise.
Oh, that's a
When
tough
like
one.
another person's there, like
Yeah.
I think I'm because I'm the eldest child, so I know how to be a team player. But yeah, no, it's been really nice actually having someone there. But then also like it was so strange because we were together. It seems like before he moved in, we were together more, but now that we have a whole space and we actually are together, we kind of do our own thing a bit more, which I actually really like. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you have to lose self, and also it's about being comfortable with each other, doesn't it? It's that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And I realize like I'm a mad woman. Like I love that we have 2 bedrooms because like we'll fall asleep and then for some reason I just want to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and start editing video or cleaning the kitchen or watching a movie, or I'm crazy. You know what I mean? He wants to sleep till a normal time like a normal person, and I'm just glad that I have that freedom to just be like batty and just roam around the house,
and enjoy life, I guess.
Yeah.
So, in terms of where people could see you or see your content, where are you suggesting? I will.
I think Instagram is a really good place for me right now at Comedian Dana. Of course, I am Comedian Dana on TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch, which I'm not really too active on, but definitely Instagram at Comedian Dana and Twitter as well. You can kind of see where I'm performing. I'm also filming a 1-hour special in Brighton on October 9th.
Okay, and then of course we've got the weekly side eye on Wednesdays.
I did actually pause that because now I'm back to work and now I'm just doing food content.
Okay, so Foodie Friday at 6.
Well, actually, what I've done, because I'm just wild. I when I cook, I just tape it and I edit it and put it out as and when now. Okay. But I'm actually putting out a lot more content, but it's not so long. Do you know what I mean? Like you can watch things in like 5-6 minutes, and it's a little bit more focused on like how to make this food. Because I mean, come on, when we're looking for a recipe on YouTube, who's trying to watch someone make something for 40 minutes, 30 minutes, just to make any sense.
I would recommend your show to anyone. Dana, I've got to say goodnight to you. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. And I really look forward to your company whenever we see you. So hopefully we'll see you.
Thanks for having me, John.
That's okay.
And thank you.
Take care. Keep cooking, yeah? So that was the amazing Dana Alexander, who on stage, a lot of comedians, they're funny. Yeah, she's funny, but she's got something to say. Very, very powerful performer, a very passionate performer, as you could tell just from that conversation. She really feels life and lives that life. Quite an interesting tip, I thought. Having someone there to share your journey, I guess that's always good. How we find that person, I don't know, but it's about trying to have someone to share your journey. I guess, as Sol pointed out, life isn't always easy, which went with Wilson's tip: sort your physical health out. Because if you're physically not well, then mentally you can also be in trouble, because it's all very, very linked. Andre's tip from New Zealand about a trouble halved is much better to talk, and Gribbo saying don't be too hard on yourself. It all seems to be falling into that same kind of way. Eric, finding something to do, push on with it. Jen, I'm still not sure about this swimming in cold water, mate. I'm not going to lie. That's never going to grab me. I'm not sure. Dave Sleet, quite an interesting one. Be the difference. Help other people. and be stubborn as you stick to it, according to Philip Simon. I'm just picking out some of my particular favorites. Marcus Birdman, who'd had a few strokes, was saying about, again, yoga and eating well, because physical and mental health are linked. For me, I think it's about reframing unhelpful thoughts. Sometimes some people have that voice in their head, which is negative. I mean, I will occasionally have this voice. I'll be looking at a cake and the voice will say, don't eat the cake, don't eat the cake. But the other voice says, just take notes of me, eat the cake. Just, you don't know what he's talking about. So you got to be aware of reframing unhelpful thoughts and being in the present wherever you can. I think that the common theme that I'm getting each week is that having positive people in your life and a bit of exercise are always going to help you. Try not to procrastinate. Again, a really good way to promote positive well-being. Negative, toxic people, having meaningful hobbies. There's all loads of little tips that people can come up with. If you get a chance to listen to the mensradiostation.com or womensradiostation.com, who just won an award, we're very proud to announce. Absolutely chuffed to bits with that. So well done to all the team, all the presenters and everyone involved. If you have any tips for wellbeing, just come on my Facebook page, go on to one of our social media pages and leave your tips there, because you may have an idea that may change the world. You may be the person responsible for making everyone happier, making everyone better. You never know. Don't underestimate the power of an individual's thought. So I'm going to just remind you that the men's radio station and women's radio station broadcast every day on mensradiostation.com and also on YouTube, on stuff on Twitter, Insta. It's all over the place. There really is no reason for anyone to not be able to hear us. As we come to the end of September, I'm hoping that as we move into winter, that people are, in a good place, and that we're giving you just some small little tips that can help you to get through life, make life a little bit more bearable. Because as we know, September has been Suicide Awareness Month, and suicide is one of the big causes of death now. And it doesn't need to be. You don't need to find a permanent solution to what can very often be a temporary problem. There is help available, and there's also ways of looking for signs and symptoms. And it fits in very much with what we're saying here, in that it's about reading the signs. Read those signs, look out for the people around you, and try and empathize, okay? Ask directly how they are, and if you can, remove the danger, and never, ever be afraid to care or start the conversation. It happens to more people than you would ever know. Please get some help. If you are struggling, or if you are worried about a friend, a relative, a neighbor. I'm going to leave you with this. Before you speak, think. Is what you're being told true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Before you say something, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Before you hear something, try to look for that grain of truth, and don't let people push their own agenda onto you. As always, you can keep in touch with us on Facebook. I'm at Comedy John Ryan, or there's at mensradiostation.com. We're on Twitter, Comedy John Ryan. Also at WJ. These guys do more than mark the roads. They really are a good bunch of people. I can't really advertise their stuff because it's not like you can go, I'll have some lines done in my garden. But they are good people, great supporters, great allies of people who advocate on behalf of raising awareness of mental well-being. Every week on a Monday night, it's my intention to get a guest on who's going to be interesting, different, bring their own slant, and will hopefully have something to say, something meaningful and worthwhile. At the end of the day, all that matters is this. If you are not in a good place, the most important person in your world needs help. Let us help you. Let's all help each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. talking with comedians about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible. It's great to be part of the mensradiostation.com family, so do check us out on the website, on social media. We'll be back next Monday. You take care. Stay safe, everybody.